When I lost my job, my husband's family told me I was dead weight and forced me to sleep in the garage. My husband said, "It's better than nothing." I quietly sold something they never thought I'd touch, and the power shifted that very night. I was laid off on a Monday. My manager didn't even look me in the eye, just handed me a packet and said it was the end of the road. No severance, no warning. I gave that company everything. 15 years. I helped build entire systems from the ground up. But none of it mattered. Just one cold sentence, and I was done. I sat in my car for over an hour that day. I couldn't drive. Couldn't think straight. It felt like something had been ripped out of me. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Greg was already home. I remember how he looked at me. Not concerned, not surprised. Just blank. Like he had already moved on in his mind. At first, he said the right things. "We'll be okay. You just need a little time." But within a few days, the way he spoke to me changed. Short, sharp sentences.
No szofnis.
He stopped sitting next to me on the couch. He'd eat without me. Go to bed before I even turned off the TV. When I brought it up, he said he was stressed about money. Greg came for money. Not filthy rich, but enough that his family never had to worry about a thing. His mother, Claudette, was the kind of woman who made you feel small without even raising her voice. Her words always had that fake sweetness, like honey laced with poison. From day one, she looked at me like I was baggage. When Greg and I first started dating, she asked me, "Do your parents own their house, or is it more of a renting situation?" That was her way of saying I wasn't good enough. And it never really stopped. So when I lost my job, she jumped at the chance to step in. One day I came home from a job fair, sweating and tired, and there she was in my kitchen, sitting at my table, drinking from my mug like it belonged to her. She looked me up and down and said, "You poor thing. You look like you've had a hard time." I didn't even answer. I just went upstairs. Later that night, Greg told me we needed to reorganize the house. Said that since I wasn't working, his family thought it might be best if I moved into the garage. That way, we wouldn't get in each other's way. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. But Greg didn't even flinch. He just said, "It's better than nothing. You're not paying for anything right now." I went numb. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just walked outside, opened the garage door, and stood there staring at the bare concrete. There was a shelf with old paint cans, a broken lawn chair, and a pile of dusty Christmas boxes. That was going to be my new room. Greg brought out a cot. Didn't say a word. Just set it down like it was a favor. That first night, I laid there with 2 blankets, the little space heater humming next to me. I could hear Greg inside, laughing at something on TV. I didn't cry. Not yet. I think I was too shocked.
Too ashamed.
Days passed like that. I'd get up early, clean myself up in the downstairs bathroom before anyone saw me. I'd walk to the coffee shop near Glenwood Avenue and apply for anything I could find. Entry-level jobs, admin work, even some night shifts. I was overqualified for most of it, but nothing came through. I started skipping dinner. Not because there wasn't food, but because sitting at that table with them, Greg, his sister Melinda, sometimes even Claudette, it just made me feel sick. They talked like I wasn't there. Melinda called me dead weight. Once, loud enough that she knew I'd hear. Claudette said she was praying for Greg to see things clearly. They stopped being subtle. They wanted me gone. Then came the jewelry. Claudette had always been proud of her collection. She'd show off old rings and brooches during family gatherings, always telling the same stories about her great-aunt or some plantation-era ancestor. I didn't care about any of it, but I listened. Because I had to. Because being quiet and polite was the only way I could survive in that house. But something about the way she started leaving those pieces out, it felt like a game. Like she was daring me to touch them. Like she wanted to remind me what power looked like. She didn't think I'd ever do anything. None of them did. But one day I did. It wasn't just the garage. It was everything that came after. The way they looked at me, like I didn't belong. Like I was some stray Greg had picked up off the street. One morning, I walked into the kitchen just to get coffee, and Claudette physically blocked me from the cabinet. "We're trying to conserve," she said, as if I was draining the whole house just by breathing. I stood there, waiting for Greg to say something. He didn't. Just kept looking at his phone. Another time, Melinda walked into the garage without knocking. I was changing clothes. She didn't even flinch, just stared at me, half naked, and said, "You know, Greg deserves someone who actually brings something to the table." Then she shut the door like she hadn't just humiliated me on purpose. I told Greg about it. His response? "She has a point." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loud, not angry, just final, like a door closing in my mind. From then on, I stopped speaking to them unless I had to. I became invisible. I cooked for myself, did my laundry at night. I kept my head down and planned. What they didn't know was that I'd found a buyer for the sapphire ring, a jeweler in Charlotte with connections to private collectors. I told him exactly what it was. He offered $28,000 cash, no questions asked. Said he'd even throw in an armored courier if I wanted to avoid driving with that kind of value. I waited another week. Watched as Claudette bragged about her upcoming trip to Charleston. Greg asked me for gas money, like he hadn't exiled me to the damn garage. Melinda joked that maybe I could clean houses for work. Then on a rainy Thursday afternoon, I took the ring and left. No note. No explanation. I met the buyer in a secure location near South Park. He counted out the cash in front of me. Thick, neat stacks. I remember touching them with shaking hands. Not because I was scared, but because it felt like I was holding my life again. I used a burner phone to book a hotel. A good one. King-size bed, room service, soaking tub. I sat in the bath that night, sipping wine and staring at the ceiling, realizing I didn't owe any of them a damn thing. But I wasn't finished. Because something else happened while I was gone. Something I didn't plan for. Greg called me in a panic. "Where are you?" he said. "My mom's jewelry is missing. Did you see anything?" I didn't answer. He called again. And again. By the fourth call, he was yelling, "I swear to God, if you did something stupid." I hung up. That's when I made the second call. To a lawyer. One I'd spoken to a few days earlier under a fake name. We met the next morning. I handed him documents I'd been collecting quietly, emails, bank statements, recordings. Things Greg had said when he thought I was powerless. It was time to make them feel what I felt. Humiliation.
Fear.
Uncertainty. And I was just getting started. Greg must have lost his mind when I disappeared. I didn't answer his calls or texts. I watched from a distance, quietly, methodically. The money from the ring gave me room to move, but I wanted more than distance. I wanted control. And then, just 2 days after I sold the ring, I got a call from someone I didn't expect. It was Julie, a woman I used to work with at the logistics firm. We hadn't spoken in months. She sounded hesitant at first. "I don't want to get in the middle of anything," she said. "But I thought you should know, your name's been coming up. Someone's been asking questions about your mental stability." I didn't understand at first. Julie went on. "Greg called Paul, your old department head. Asked if you'd been acting erratic before the layoff. Said he was worried about you. But it sounded more like he was building a story." That's when it clicked. Greg wasn't just panicking. He was trying to cover his tracks. He knew the jewelry was missing, and he was laying the groundwork to say I'd snapped. That I was unstable. Maybe even dangerous. He was planning to throw me under the bus, publicly, legally, maybe even medically. That changed everything. I told my lawyer what Julie said. He nodded slowly, then asked, "Do you want to play defense or offense?" "Offense," I said, without hesitation. We moved fast. I had already gathered financial documents, bank transfers Greg made to his personal account using our joint funds, credit card charges he never told me about, and even proof that he'd been helping Claudette move assets quietly. Things like artwork, rare coins, and yes, more jewelry. All of it under my nose. All of it while I was being called dead weight. But here's the twist I never expected. Greg had made one crucial mistake. He never took my name off the family trust documents Claudette updated when we first got married. Back then, Claudette insisted I sign all kinds of papers. I barely understood them at the time. I was in love, trying to be accepted. Turns out, one of those signatures gave me partial authority over the family's financial trust, under very specific conditions. Like if Greg was found to be mishandling assets, or if there was evidence of marital fraud. My lawyer smiled when he saw it. "We can use this, if you're willing to go to war." I was. While Greg was scrambling to make me look unstable, I had already filed a motion for legal separation and emergency financial restraint. It froze every joint account, every credit card, even the deed on the house. That night, Greg couldn't even buy gas. Claudette tried to withdraw money, and the bank flagged the transaction. Melinda called me, furious, screaming that I was ruining the family. I told her the truth.
You ruined yourselves.
I just stopped pretending I couldn't see it. Then I hung up. The next morning, Greg showed up at the hotel. I saw him through the peephole. He looked pale, sweating. He knocked once, then again. Then he slid something under the door. It was a note. For words, "We need to talk." But it was too late. Because now I had something they never expected. Leverage. The note Greg slipped under my door didn't move me. For once, I didn't feel fear or sadness. I felt focus. Clear and steady. He didn't want to talk. He wanted to pull me back into the chaos before I could finish what I started. I didn't open the door. Instead, I sent a copy of the legal notice to his work email. Let him find out there, surrounded by coworkers, that I'd frozen our joint assets and was filing for divorce. Not just any divorce, a contested one, with claims of financial misconduct, mental cruelty, and spousal abandonment. My lawyer filed an emergency motion to compel a full forensic audit of the family trust. Because of the document Claudette made me sign years ago, her attempt to trap me with paperwork, I now had the legal right to demand an accounting of every asset, every dollar they tried to hide. By the following week, Greg was forced to attend court-ordered mediation. He showed up looking like he hadn't slept in days. The smugness was gone. So was the confidence. Claudette was there, too, tight-lipped and shaking with rage. Melinda didn't show. My lawyer laid everything out: the hidden assets, the forged financial transfers, the emails where Greg discussed moving valuables out of state, the recordings of Melinda calling me dead weight, the garage photos, even receipts showing I'd been paying part of the mortgage longer than they claimed. But the moment that truly turned the room was when I pulled out the receipt from the jewelry sale. Greg's face drained. Claudette gasped. "I sold it," I said, "because I knew you'd never give me a dime willingly. And no, don't worry. I had it appraised. It wasn't even the original. Just a near-match replica you had made when the real one went to auction in 2006. That part was true. I'd found out through the buyer. They'd checked its history and confirmed it wasn't worth $30,000. More like $4,000 at most. That lie cost Claudette her credibility in court. My lawyer leaned in and said, "So you defrauded your son's wife with a fake heirloom, then called her mentally unstable when she fought back?" No one had anything to say after that. In the final settlement, I got more than money. I got the house. Greg was ordered to vacate within 30 days. He tried to fight it, claimed he needed time to relocate, but the judge didn't care. His assets were frozen until the audit was complete, and I had full authority to live in the home while the divorce finalized. Claudette tried to negotiate privately, offered me a check to walk away quietly. I laughed. "You made me sleep in the garage," I said. "Now you can watch your family burn from the front row." Melinda lost her job a month later. Turns out she'd been using her company account to finance some of the family moving expenses. That didn't sit well with corporate. She went dark on social media after that. Greg tried to reach out a few more times. Sent emails. Left voicemails. Said he never meant for it to go that far. I didn't answer. Instead, I took my time redecorating the house. Every corner of it. Got rid of anything they'd touched. I turned the garage into a home office with real floors, real walls, real heat. And every morning I sit in there, drink my coffee, and remind myself, that was the room where they tried to break me. Now it's the room where I rebuilt everything. And I did it without begging, without crawling, without forgiveness. Just the truth. And the kind of revenge you never forget. I stayed quiet through the rest of the divorce. Didn't rise to the bait, didn't respond to Greg's sudden interest in making things right. He tried everything. Said he missed me. Said he'd messed up. That he'd been under pressure from his family. That it wasn't what it looked like. But I didn't need closure from him. The real closure came when the audit report was finalized. Turned out Greg and Claudette had been siphoning money from the family trust for years. Buying property under shell names, moving antiques out of state to avoid declaring them as assets. When the auditors dug deeper, they found unreported income going back a decade. That triggered a state investigation. Claudette ended up facing charges for tax fraud. Not jail time, she was too connected, but enough for her reputation to be ruined in every social circle she clung to. She sold her house to pay fines. She moved in with Melinda, whose life wasn't much better. Melinda had lost more than her job. Her ex-husband filed for full custody after her financial records were exposed. She fought it, but the court sided with him. Said she showed a pattern of instability and poor judgment.
Greg?
He got slapped with a lien on his accounts and a court order to repay a large chunk of what he stole from the trust. On top of the divorce settlement, he had to sell his car, then his boat, then his condo. He moved into a rented duplex on the other side of town. I saw him once, by accident, maybe a year later. He was at the gas station, standing by the pump, looking like a shadow of the man who once told me I was better off in the garage. He didn't recognize me at first. I'd cut my hair, change how I dressed. I looked like someone free, someone whole. He glanced at me, looked away, then turned back again. I met his eyes for half a second. He opened his mouth to say something, but I turned and walked away. Not because I was scared, not because I was bitter, but because there was nothing left to say. He broke something in me the night he left me out there, in the cold, on that cot like I was trash. He let his family humiliate me while he stood silent. That kind of betrayal doesn't heal. It burns down the old version of you, and if you're lucky, you build something stronger from the ashes. And that's exactly what I did. With the money from the house, I started a business. Small at first, virtual assistant work for local startups, but it grew. I hired others. Women like me. Women who'd been pushed aside, talked over, underestimated. And every time I sit down at my desk, in the garage I turned into a sanctuary, I think about how they all thought I'd disappear. Instead, I became the one thing they never expected. The woman who got back up. The woman who took everything they used to hurt her and turned it into power. And I will never, ever let them forget that. It's been 3 years now. The garage doesn't even look like a garage anymore. It has skylights, hardwood floors, a sound system, a velvet couch, and a live-edge oak desk that I picked out myself. I run my business from here. We're up to 12 employees, fully remote, most of them single moms or women restarting after long gaps like I once was. I don't talk about Greg anymore. Not to friends. Not to clients. He's just a footnote. When people ask if I've been married, I say yes, but I leave it there. There's nothing in that story worth telling to anyone who didn't live through it with me. Every once in a while, I still get mail addressed to his name. Legal stuff. Debt collectors, mostly. I don't open it. I just write, return to sender, and leave it in the outgoing box. I don't hate him. I don't wish him well, either. He's just gone. Claudette moved out of state. Florida, I heard. Melinda filed for bankruptcy last year. Someone told me through a friend. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. I think the most surprising part of all this is how quiet revenge really feels when it's finished. There's no applause. No music. Just peace. A peace you build brick by brick, knowing no one gave it to you, you earned it, with every scar and every choice you made when nobody believed in you. I go to sleep now with the windows open. I don't check the locks twice. I don't keep my phone by the bed in case someone tries to corner me again. I sleep. That's the ending. Not fireworks. Not screaming. Just a woman in her own home, sleeping soundly in the warmth she built for herself, far, far away from the cold of that garage. And that is enough.